Right. And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you're coming in, let me know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, give me just a quick thumbs up so I know that you guys can hear me on Facebook and YouTube. I'm monitoring over here the comments. Brian is here. We're going to intro Brian here in a second. But just let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a deuces or something. Just let me know you can hear me. I'm checking on YouTube and Facebook. I see you guys for coming in. Thank you so much for joining. And we will get started in just about 20 seconds. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me on both platforms. Okay, I think you guys can hear me. Hold on, guys. Technology is fun. Technology is great, guys. If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, I see you guys. Okay, awesome. Let me just make sure y'all can hear me on YouTube. All right, wonderful. And if you have any questions or anything, as always, you guys can leave them in the comments as we are here, as we are going through the interview or the conversation. I don't like to be I'm not a journalist, so like this is just a conversation. So all right, we are good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm so excited to be back here in 2021 in a whole new year. Y'all, we made it. Hallelujah, holla back. We made it out of 2020. Actually, you know what? Let me just check to make sure y'all can hear Brian because, last time you couldn't hear everybody. Brian, just say what's up real quick. Uh, I think, they're good. They're good. All right, awesome. But we made it through 2020, and so I'm just super excited that we made it through 2020. Um, so we are back here in 2021. If you guys heard, I started actually season 2 last year, and then I am fully into it now. And Brian was actually on season 2, episode 2. And so I'm so excited to have him here and to be able to just talk about the episode and talk about all things mental health. If you've listened to the episode, then you know what we're about to get into. If not, then you may not know. However, it's going to be some really good conversation. So I'm going to read a quick intro on Brian. Let's be clear, I call him B. So if you hear me calling him B, I call him B all the time. And that's what you're going to hear me calling him throughout the interview. So B is Brian. So, but I'm going to, read the interview, the bio, the professional, let me put my professional voice on. Excuse me. Brian Patrick is the founder and president of the Atlanta based nonprofit Beyond Broken Inc. Beyond Broken strives to normalize mental illness and eradicate the stigma around mental health. With depression, anxiety, and suicide rates increasing in America, Beyond Broken aims to provide support groups, doctor ratings, and low to no cost therapy to those who need it most in the Atlanta community. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome my friend B, aka Brian Patrick.
Yeah.
What the kids do?
You into it. I can't keep up with you.
I can't listen. I can't. I
It's
don't know what the kids do.
too late in the night. If I do, I fall asleep.
Oh, you're out of control. I realized I didn't even introduce myself. So if this is your first time, my name is Lauren Denise. I'm the host of This Too Shall Suck podcast, where we talk about the real of grief, the whole grief, and nothing but the grief. And as I said, this is a conversation between two friends. And again, if you haven't heard the episode 2 of this season was titled The Aftermath of Suicide. And so I thought it was important to bring Brian on. I'm going to let him share the story of what happened, but his beautiful wife, my friend Brandy Patrick, actually committed suicide last year in 2020. And we all were devastated. I can't even imagine, obviously, the level of devastation that Brian went through, but she was such just a beautiful person, wonderful soul. We connected on just off rip, but then we connected on a level because we had lost our parents. And so we connected on that level. And so it was really heartbreaking to hear the news. And so I thought it was important to bring Brian on because we always talk about suicide and we always talk about the people who are going through it and the people who have done it. But I don't think we talk enough to the survivors of it, the people, excuse me, the people who have to deal with the aftermath of it. And so I wanted to give space and time and light to that. So I was so excited to have Brian on, and I'm so excited to have him here tonight. So Brian, if you can just share, kind of what happened last year for those who did not get a chance to listen to the podcast to understand why we're here and what we're going to be talking about.
Of course, the first thing I would say is if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to the podcast, shame on you. Go listen to the podcast. So there's the first thing. But for the few who are already here and you can't go back and listen to it because we are live, I will go back and tell you the story. So, my wife, probably her entire life since she was maybe 2 or 3, had dealt with depression. Um, 2019, it got really bad. She dealt with depression, debilitating anxiety, and that was mixed with medical malpractice. And as she struggled to get through the days, day by day, it got tougher and tougher for her. And then on March 3rd, 2020, she took her own life. And since that moment, I've been living in that aftermath that you talk about, and it's multi-stage. Unfortunately for me, I've been able to mentor others to go through that because last year was such a hard year. Lauren, you don't know this yet, but maybe less than a month after we had that episode, a cousin of mine lost his wife, and so you know I'm reliving those steps now again, trying to get him through that. So um, it's it's a painful thing to have happen. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I think everybody should know what happens after losing somebody in that way, which is why I'm here today.
I love it. And I'm so sorry to your family, to your cousin. Um, I'm, oh my God. I don't even know what to say. I'm just speechless. I'm so sorry. So if your cousin is watching, I'm so sorry to you that that happened. And like you said, that you're having to kind of go through that and relive that over and over again. So let's kind of talk about that. Let's talk about that reliving. I was watching something today. Taraji has a new show about mental health, and she was talking about that kind of survivor's guilt of reliving. And you and I had talked about it on the episode of could I have done this? What could I have done? And reliving those moments over and over again. Is that something, now we're close, not obviously a year, but close to a year of that happening. Do you still have that? And how long after she passed away and she committed suicide did you have that kind of survivor's guilt or survivor's remorse?
It's interesting. To answer the last question first, immediately. Um, as you know, I was the person who found her. And when I found her, immediately I was going through my head as the night went on. Um, could I have done this differently today? I went to work when I wasn't actually supposed to go to work today. And should I have stayed home? All this kind of stuff. Immediately, you immediately have that. And then as time goes on, everything in the process is an ebb and flow, you know. So I don't have it often now, but that's an ebb. It flows back every once in a while. Maybe last week, I was thinking about some things and thinking about some conversations that we had had. Not last week, whenever the 12th was. So that was like
2 days ago.
2 days.
Oh, it's 2 days ago. Yeah.
Like, I don't go to the office no more. Every day feels like
Right. Everything's the same. Right.
what a lot of people don't know is that January 12th of last year is when me and Brandy checked her into Ridgeview because she was telling me I can't fight these urges to commit.
And Ridgeview is a mental hospital.
Ridgeview is a mental hospital, so
Okay.
she was there for about a week or so for her own protection. And so the 12th comes this year, and I'm walking by a calendar, and it hits me. Today's the 12th. It's been 1 year since it really got out of hand, right?
Mm.
And I just started thinking, man, there's so many things that if I had known then what I know now, I would have done differently.
Mm.
Live in that space, you will go crazy. So when that does happen to me, you just have to tell yourself, if everybody knew what they knew now, then they wouldn't have to know it.
Right. Yeah.
You can't beat yourself up about what you should and should not have done, because all this stuff is not in your control. You were just a person on this planet. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen.
No, that's absolutely right. And I think that's important for anyone who's listening who may be, having to deal with that. Like you said, your cousin or anyone who's having to do that. And I think just in any type of grief where you lose somebody or even like a divorce or anything, like what could I have done better? You can't live in that space. It's going to happen. And I think it's important to allow yourself to go through that. Like you said, those ebb and those flows, but to not stay in those moments because I feel like, and you and I talked about it, if it wasn't that day, would have been the next day, would have been the day after that, would have been the day after that. And you'll drive yourself crazy thinking
Exactly.
about
I don't even think you should live in those moments, because there's nothing constructive about it. Like, there's very few lessons you can learn, and they say hindsight is 2020. But there's very few lessons you can learn from it once you do that once or twice. A year down the road, if you're still living in those moments, you're doing that to because you're a masochist. You want to cause yourself pain, but once you learn the lesson, you can't. I love to look back. Don't get me wrong,
that.
but
Hmm.
not on those things that I can't change, or you know that bring me pain like that. You just got to keep moving forward after you accepted, learned, and then you move on.
Yeah, yeah. So I think something important to talk about, and I had another episode where I talked to Candace Wright. She's a suicide, or what they call it, attempt survivor,
Mhm.
and something that you brought up is to at the end of the episode, you told people like if you are talking about committing suicide, let someone know your plan,
Right.
and so to that, if someone is listening and they're thinking about it, why is it important for them to let someone know their plan? And if you do know their plan, what does that mean for you? Like if Brandy was like, "Yo, I'm gonna kill myself tomorrow," like you know what I'm saying? Like what does that mean, and why is that important?
So it's many things. The first is, think it's hard to put any of our shoes or ourselves in those shoes of somebody thinking of committing suicide or completing suicide. But if there's a line of communication open, there's no judgment on how I'm feeling and how far it's gotten, then it's a better chance you can save that person, because they'll talk to you, they'll come to you. Also, if you know their plan, then you'll be able to see different things. If my plan is, I'm gonna take a bunch of pills and get into a bubble bath and then just fade away. That's my plan on a Tuesday. I want to do it on a Tuesday, or whatever. If on Tuesday you hear me turning on the water to take a bubble bath, you're gonna pay some attention to me, right? So
Right, right.
know that plan so that you can know what's going on with that person. And you can know, okay, well, this is happening. I need to get involved, or this is happening. I need to get involved. But above all, it's to open that line of communication so there's not a shock for people, that you can now talk to them about getting help. You can now, without judgment, because you told me your plan. Without judgment, I just wanted you to know that I'm here, and let's see if we can bring you some peace that doesn't end with your life being over with, right?
Hmm.
You can't do that if someone says, I'm thinking about killing myself, and you're like, oh my God, why would you ever do that? Oh my God, it's so terrible. No, because now they'll never talk to you again. It's really hard to open up. It's really hard to open up and tell somebody, I don't feel like the life that I have is worth living at the moment that I'm living it. And that's
Mm,
a tough thing to say out loud. If
yeah.
you're fighting somebody to do it and they judge you, game over.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. So let's kind of dive into that for someone who is being a caretaker to someone who may have mental health issues. Like you said, somebody coming to you and saying the life that I have is not worth living. And they feel like they're being a burden. And again, I'm talking about things we all talked about on the episode. We're just diving a little deeper for you guys. But, for someone who's like, yeah, like I don't feel like my life is worth it. I feel like I'm being a burden on you. I don't want to tell you, that I'm about to kill myself. So there's two parts to this question. So I'll start with the first one, and then we'll get into the second one. So the first part is if I'm a caregiver, or caretaker, and I'm taking care of someone, how and they feel like they're a burden. Like, how do you tell the person who is maybe the one who's thinking about suicide and being the burden? What do you say to them that you're not a burden? It's fine. And you said something profound, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because you said something so beautiful on the podcast. So that person who may be ready to commit suicide, who feels like they're being a burden on their caretaker, what do you say to that person?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to say it again because people need to listen to your podcast.
You need to listen. You're right.
That's what I need to listen to if y'all want to hear some profound stuff.
It was good.
But I'll paraphrase it. How about that? Can I do that?
I'll take that.
I'm probably not going to paraphrase. I'm probably going to say it all. But
you won't.
my wife used to think that. In fact, the very last real conversation that we had was us standing outside in our backyard and her apologizing to me for being such a burden. And I told her that she wasn't a burden. This is a disease like any other thing. If she had cancer, I would be fighting with her until my last breath. And I told her, I'm going to fight with you until my last breath. And then less than 12 hours later, she was gone. But what I wish I could have told her, I wish she could have seen, is the aftermath of suicide and really what actually happens. And a lot of those people think that their burden and your life would be better without them. And if only it wasn't for them, you would be in a better place. But I can guarantee you, categorically, I'm not in a better place without her. I truly felt like she was my rib. I truly felt that. And I truly felt like she was the sunrise and the sunset. When you take those away, you don't really have days anymore.
Yeah.
And if she knew that, not just how it affected me, but how it affects my mother, how it affects my brother, my sisters, how it affects my nieces and nephews, how it affects the entire ecosystem of the people who loved her, she would know that there's never anything that she could have done to be a burden. In fact, it's way more painful not having her here than it was having her here and her go through something that we got to go through together. If there are people out there who are thinking about it, life is always better with you in it. Without.
Oh, I just got emotional. Excuse me. See, that was good too. That was good too. And you didn't give him that one line.
I wouldn't gonna do that.
You did good. No, you did good. But no, that was good. I mean, that's the truth. Like, life is better with you in it than without. And so if you are watching this and you're seeing, someone who is living in it, and I hate to keep calling it the aftermath because it does sound so chaotic.
It's true. I'll tell you this. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you're fine.
It's been 311 days. The only reason I know that is because I count every single day. I didn't count every day of my life before Brandy died.
Yeah.
But every day of my life since Brandy died, it's like how they mark time, BC, and
Yeah.
Now there's AB for me. Days after Brandy.
Yeah.
However they turn out, however they may be, I will forever mark my life as before Brandy, during Brandy, and in the days after. And that right there in itself is proof that definitely couldn't have been a burden if I'm marking time by you not being here. So
yeah. I am trying to hold it together, for real, y'all. I'm trying to hold it together. Brian, don't have me crying, okay?
If I ain't gonna cry, you can't. That's the deal.
I know. Okay, that's the deal. Pinky. All right. So second part to the question. Now we're talking to the caregivers. Like you said, I thought it was something important that you said is that you don't say like, well, why would you want to kill yourself? Why would you want to do that? That's selfish. Like, don't come from that place. So to someone feels a safe space or feels open enough or comfortable enough to come to you to say that, what do they do with that information and how do they make that person who is comfortable enough to come to them be safe and keep that open line of communication if they've never dealt with it before, right?
Right. Well, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a uh, mental health professional.
Same. None of this is all conversation. Let me be very clear. All of this is conversation. No one on here is certified. We are just having conversation.
Don't come for me. I got,
Disclaimer, I'm gonna put that in the caption too, because what you will not do is be coming to sue nobody in here. Okay?
got enough lawsuits. Don't come for me, please. But what I will say is it really depends on where you are in that process. So Brandy told me her plan twice.
Mm.
But when she told me her plan twice, Brandy had a therapist, a counselor, and a psychologist. So there were professionals who I could make sure this information got relayed to. For me, as a caregiver, I always wanted to be the safe space. I always wanted to be the person that you would come to and talk to. I didn't want you to only feel like you could talk to people who we pay, because if you don't like them no more and you shut down, then I can't help you anymore. So,
Yeah.
one, you take it in with no judgment, and then if you do have those people in place, you set up a meeting. You tell your person you're taking care of, I'd like to sit down with the two of you and let's all talk about your plan together. I want me to know your plan and I want your professional to know your plan so that
Mm-hmm.
um, no one's judging you and no one's stopping you from your plan, but we all should know. And that way, the professional knows, and then they can give us some real advice, and then you can come for the professionals. They can give you some real advice. If you do not have a professional, it's the perfect conversation about, look, I'm not. This is not about me judging you. This is
Mm-hmm.
about me thinking that what you're doing is wrong. This is about you telling me something that is very serious, and I want to get you in front of people who can maybe help you and who can make you feel better or give you, some different perspective or something that I, as Brian, who does not do this for a living, I can't give you. All I can give you is my heart and my ears. And so let's set you up somewhere. But either way, your job, your main priority as caretaker is to make sure the person across the table from you feels cared for, you know? And if you can't do that, 100%, if you're not a psychiatrist, you're not a therapist, then your job as the caretaker is to make sure they get that care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically it.
Simple concept.
So,
Take care.
exactly.
Take care. So a question that a lot of people talk to me about, that I wanted to ask from again your perspective. Do you think that suicide is a selfish act?
No, not at all. Um, Not at all. I might have a controversial take on it. One, I think it's an incredibly brave act. Some people think it's cowardice, but I don't. There are 9 billion, 7 billion people in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are 350 million Americans in this country. 48,000 of them die of suicide. It's not that's too many, but that's not a lot, right? To 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 decide on your own that I will no longer see another day, when all you've ever known from the time that you could think was life, is incredibly brave. Most of us will leave kicking and screaming, and these people walk themselves out.
Mm,
One, I think that now I want to preface this by saying there's a lot of things that are incredibly brave too. Fighting lions is incredibly brave. I wouldn't suggest anybody do it,
fine.
but I wouldn't suggest you fight a lion. But if somebody was like, I fight lions for a living, I go, wow, that is a brave thing to do. That's it. But the other part of my controversial thing is I don't think when people get to the point where they feel the only option they have in their life is to no longer have one, that they're being selfish about that. I think
Mm,
that these are people who, one, we just talked about how they feel like they're a burden on everybody else because they can't function in the way that you and I can. And two, I don't think there's anybody. A selfish act is something you want to do. I don't think there's anybody who, if given a better option, they felt it was better, would decide to take their lives. These are people who are at the very end of their rope and they can't figure anything else out but this. And they begrudgingly, bravely decide to take that action and then they're gone. So no, it's not a selfish act. It's an act of desperation, purely of desperation.
mm. No, that's real. Wait, somebody said wow. I don't. If that is that a good wow? Is that a wow wow? Like, I don't know.
It's a controversial wow, because
Is that a controversial wow?
yeah, it's a controversial wow.
No, but when Candace was on, she was talking about that. A lot of people who are having those thoughts or are having those moments, they just want what's happening to stop. They want the pain to stop. They want the voice in their head to stop. They just want it to stop. And like you said, they feel like there's nothing or for them that they can look at. Oh, she said never looked at it that way. I know that was a good answer.
Have you ever
Uh,
seen that movie on Netflix from Black Mirror called Bandersnatch, where you can choose your own adventure?
mm-hmm.
I'm about to ruin the movie for a bunch of people, so if you haven't seen it,
No, it
but you can choose your own adventure, so it ends in
is
whatever.
a good time. It is a good time. It's fun.
But I was watching it last night. I got real bored, and I was like, I ain't got no bumps here, so I'm about to choose my own adventure, right?
Right.
And you get to a part in the path. No matter what you choose, the boy who you're controlling understands that he can't control anything.
Yeah.
And it starts to make him lose his mind. And people, especially with mental health issues, it's like being in Bandersnatch and somebody else is making decisions for you all the time and you
Mm,
aren't in control. But you are cogent enough to understand, at least Brandy was, I'm not in control or I don't know if this is me or not. And if that happens to you every day to the point where you don't even know who you are, you don't even know how to navigate anymore, or if you're the one navigating, imagine how that may feel. It's like having your hand on a hot stove and never being able to take it off.
yeah.
And then they do the most rash of things, which is suicide. But um, we look at it having our own facilities and everything. We look at it having our own wits about us, and we look at it as in the shoes that we're in. We've never been in those shoes to understand how terrible it must feel to feel out of control every moment of every day, and that out of control be painful. Like that's a tough thing to do. Every day that she lived was brave. So if she decided that this was going to be the last day, it was very painful. But she had been brave for longer than most people knew.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you have not listened to the episode, he shared Brandy's story, and I learned things about Brandy that I didn't even know. Just things that I kind of knew, but once we went deeper into them, like just things that I can't imagine having to carry every day. Um, so
The
listen to
moral
the episode.
is listen to the podcast.
Listen to the episode. Oh, we have a question. If someone is at the point of desperation, why don't they reach out for help?
Okay, well, let's answer that question. So, a lot of the times, those people who are at the point of desperation did reach out for help. Nobody understood that it was help that they were reaching for.
That's real.
There's many times where somebody will randomly ask you to lunch and you can't make it, and it took them a month or so to get the courage up to do that.
Mm,
Also, a lot of very subtle things where you may know somebody really, really well, and they're not acting the same way they used to act or whatever, and that's asking for help, and nobody helps. Um, and then above all, a lot of people don't know that they need help until it gets to a point, and then even when it gets to that point, I don't want to equate these the same way, but it's like if you're a couple and you guys are having money problems and you really want to figure that junk out yourself because it's embarrassing to go ask people for money.
hmm
And so if I'm having these mental issues, one, we all have to be honest with ourselves. Every one of your friends, you can have 1,000 friends, every one of them ain't the one you go to and you say, I'm having these real big problems, because they've got to be able to handle that.
Correct.
And there's very few people in your life. I'm only going to speak for myself. There's very few
Fact.
people in my life who I can put that burden on and say, help me with this.
Correct.
Um, got to remember, and I don't know who asked the question. I don't know if they know Brandy or all, but you have to remember, in Brandy's case, she was getting professional help from multiple. We had a team of professionals,
Yeah.
and she still didn't get the help that she needed. And when she did sit down and ask people for help, not everybody was equipped to handle that conversation. So
Right.
once you get rejected or neglected, or once you ask for that help and it doesn't turn out right, it makes it harder for you to ask somebody else. And then,
Right.
once you get as deep as people who are getting ready to commit suicide get deep, they feel my issue is so big you couldn't help me in the first place.
Right.
You can't help me. And that's kind of what her mindset was, is that nobody can help me anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
Too big.
Yeah. No, I understand that because it's one of those things of what am I going to come to you and say I'm suicidal, right? Like that's not a lunchtime conversation that we're having or
Right.
dinner and drinks and hey, just
Right.
letting you know, like I'm really really feeling suicidal today. Like you said, some people that's just not a conversation that they can handle. And I had a conversation with some of my girlfriends, and we were just talking about the noticing like the different signs and now being more cognitive and paying attention to mental health and your reach out Wednesdays, making sure you're checking in on people because now you're noticing if I'm checking in every Thursday and this Thursday something's off, now I can check in a little deeper, right? Um,
The
so I think,
pandemic was good for that,
yeah,
making people cognizant of it. But if you rewind back a little bit before, and this is not a bad thing at all, but it's a true thing. The older we get, the more we get wrapped up in our own lives.
I agreed. Yep.
You can have really good, close friends, and you don't really see them very often anymore. When you get together, that's not the time to be like, "How you doing?" Well, I'm suicidal. Like,
Right.
you got to rebuild that bond to make it.
Yeah.
We got close friends who we aren't as close with anymore because it's just time, life, children, families, husband, wives, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to take that burden and put it on the table and tell people, let's look at this and let's talk to this right now.
Right. And it may not even be as heavy as, I'm suicidal or anything like that, but that's the whole purpose of this podcast, right? Like I didn't know how to channel my grief.
Right.
And I would go to people, they didn't know how to like how do you go to your friends and be like, yeah, both of my parents are dead and like shit sucks. Like, that's not their story.
Right.
It's like what do they do with that? And so they did what they could with it, but then I realized when I had to go get professional help, and then when I realized I have to create a space for others because I didn't have a space for myself to be able to do that, to talk about it. And so let's create a space to talk about it because that's what's going to help us navigate this wild thing called grief, this wild thing called life.
Right.
um,
Well, like I said on the podcast, which y'all should go listen to after this.
We're
Uh,
gonna keep saying that the whole thing.
like I said on the podcast, grief is unnatural to people until they have it,
Correct.
and so it makes them really uncomfortable. Grief.
Mhm.
I felt like a lot of the times, I felt like I would show up places and I'd be like, "Am I butt naked?" Because that's the way y'all treating me. Like I'm completely
Like,
like I know I put clothes on, I feel
is he
them,
supposed to be here? Is he supposed to be here?
but they didn't know what to, you don't know what to say to that person. And then most of the time, what you say to that person makes them want to roll their eyes so hard they get a headache. Where
Right.
and it's not your fault. You want to say something. You want them to. We talked about this on the podcast. Grief for most people is a thing to get over, but it's really not something that you get over. It's
You
the
don't.
bad. You keep that. You keep that for your life, right?
Correct.
And the people in front of you just want that to go. I want the old Brian back. I want you to be happy again. It's like, well, I'll find that, but always be tinged with this grief. So we all got to get used to this thing right here.
Right. Right. There's a thickness of it that'll go away eventually, but
Yeah. I didn't even know what the question was. Did we answer it?
no, we did. We did. Did we answer your question? I think so. Oh, she was talking about as a parent, she worries if she missed signs because kids are just so temperamental. Just true.
Good question. That's a good thing. You should probably have my mom on for this one because she's so insightful, and I'm not a
Oh,
parent.
let's call your mom.
But um, I definitely have to put a disclaimer on this one because I'm not a parent.
Right.
Um, but I was depressed as a little kid. I understand depression. That was one of the things I understood with Brandy. I understand what depression really is.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was really wonderful for it because she was that safe space person for me. I could have bad days and I'd have good days, but I always knew when I talked to my mama, even to this day, I could tell my mom some wild stuff. She wouldn't even blink an eye, wouldn't judge me, wouldn't pull out the Bible and say, "Well, Jesus said that." No, she just listened to me. And if you keep that line of communication open, at least for me when I was a kid, it helps. And as a parent, I guess it gives you a little bit more insight to who your kid is, and when those things do get different, and when you might need to give them to a therapist or something because they're talking to you.
Mm.
But
So
my
communication.
thing, I don't know because
Right.
I'm not a,
Not that.
I'm not a dad. I don't know.
No, but it's the truth. Again, like Candace, who was just on the last episode, the attempt survivor, she'll be on. I'm going to do a live with her next week, but she's a parent. She has two kids, two sons, and she said that her mom, when she was younger, was going through all this stuff, and she saw her going through all this stuff and holding it in and not saying anything. And so when she got older, her mom was like, "Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me?" And she's like, "You never created that space for me to come and do that."
Kids
Uh,
aren't really perceptive like that. Kids
yeah,
are, yeah.
Yeah, so again, I'm not a parent, Brian's not a parent, but what I can say from talking to a lot of people, doing this podcast, professionals and things like that, is just creating that safe space for them to be able to come talk to you. Because if they're not going to talk to you, they're going to talk to their friends, they're going to talk to their boyfriends, their girlfriends, they're going to talk to all those people, and you're going to be the last to know and be like,
Exactly.
what's that show on Netflix? 13 Reasons Why, 14 Reasons Why, whatever that show
But
is on Netflix.
yeah, I hate that show.
Do you really?
Yeah, I hate that show. You know that teenage suicide went up when that show came out because it,
Because
it
they wanted to create the storyline.
kind of glorified from what I remember, kind of glorified the stuff. And
I've heard that. I've heard like it glorifies suicide, like making it a not a cool thing, but like a I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. Do you have those conversations with your kids to say, "Hey, this show is on here. If you ever feel that way, you
absolutely,
know."
yeah. I mean, I would hope if I was a father, I could have that conversation. If I saw my kids watching 13 Reasons Why, um, I can sit down with them and watch it with them, first of all,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then be like, well, tell me what you think about this. And just really have that conversation. Because, I mean, it would be heartbreaking, as a parent to lose a child that was under your roof. So, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and you said that you were depressed as a child. So I've had this conversation with friends before, again, who've had children, and their children are young, and they're like, "I'm depressed," and they're like, "Well, how do you know what depression is?" How did you know, obviously, as a child, do you think there's influences from like a 13 Reasons Why saying I'm depressed, or your friends are over here saying I'm depressed, or do you really think kids know what that means, know what that is?
Well, I did. I mean,
Did you?
I,
Okay.
I don't want to age myself, but I'm a little older than Netflix, you know.
You need to cut it out. Like you 55 years old. Stop it.
Older. I remember when I used to have to send Netflix videos, you
I
know,
mean, same,
but
same.
um, no, I remember. I remember vividly. I was like maybe in kindergarten, first grade, and I would be so sad sometimes that I would just cry.
Mm,
No, like no reason why, but I was just so sad, and it stayed with me. Second grade, third grade, I was just sad, and um, I was intelligent enough to know, or perceptive enough to know, this isn't how everybody feels. It's how I feel, and I don't know why the days seem so dark for me. And I'm a kid; I should be happy like everybody else. So I understood that I was different, and I didn't know what it was called at the time, but I understood that this was not the norm, and I would talk to my mom about it, and we would talk. But yeah, I was a depressed child, and I understood that I was a depressed child.
mm. No, that's good.
And
That's good.
something's not, something ain't right. They know. They just don't know what to call it.
So if you're a parent listening, just create a safe space for your child. I tell, I'm not even about to go there. I tell people that all the time who have kids. I'm like,
Create a
create
safe
a safe
space,
space.
and then stop trying to tell them what they feel.
Ooh,
Like, oh, you. Why would you be sad? I'm the one paying all the bills now. You know, for me, my childlike problems are adult until I grow up and they get bigger. My
yeah,
shoulders are only so big as a child, and these things that I'm carrying on are really heavy for me. They
for a
might not be
child.
for
Yeah,
you. So have that same caretaker understanding. You are as a parent the caretaker. So just understand it.
yeah, yeah. Somebody said kids are isolated right now. They are not able to have the outlet of school. They can sense the anxiety from what's going on in this nation. It makes them sad. That is very true.
Absolutely. I know people make fun of these kids, this generation, all the time, talking about how soft they are. But I mean, you got to be a tough kid to grow up in this in Trump's America. You got to be a tough kid to grow up. It is. Think about it. Like we're grown, and every week we are here like, whew, damn, another.
Listen, it's PTSD at its finest.
Yes. So these kids who were born in like 2008, I got an Obama book over. Was born during the Obama years, growing up now.
Right.
They have traumas that their parents did not even give them. Like they have world traumas that we
World
really have.
trauma.
The world never shut down when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
I was
I mean,
looking.
we've lived through a lot though, B. Don't you know, we've lived through a lot of
That's
trauma.
all they're short now. But I'm saying that this, that I would have. I'd much rather would have lived through my generation and your generation than this new one. Like
Yeah.
they got to be
I
tough.
mean, they got it all in one year. Ours was, spread out a little bit. We
They
had
got a lifetime whooping in 1 year. So
right. I'm like, we had, it was like 9/11, this. Then it was like 2020. I'm
right,
like, dude,
exactly. And
give
that's
us a
also
minute.
look. I got mad respect for people who are parents during this time because that's tough too.
Ain't no way. It ain't no way. God bless y'all.
God bless y'all. My heart
It
go out.
ain't no way. The Lord knew. Mm-mm. He was like, yeah, she need a minute. She needs a minute. She's not going to be able to do that right. What else did I want to talk about with you that somebody asked me? I'm trying to think of questions that like people asked me after the episode who listened to it. If you didn't listen to it, again, we're going to say it one more time. What are y'all talking about? Are y'all asking me questions? I can't. Okay. Oh my God, B, it just slipped my mind. Okay, well, in the interim, while I think about that, tell us about the Beyond Broken project. What is that? How did it start? What are we doing? Let's dive into that while I think about what somebody asked me.
All right. So Beyond Broken Inc. is a nonprofit that me and Brandy started. So 2019, we were going through it, with everything that she was going through. And one night we were talking, and we both were like, when we get over this, when we get over this hump, I feel like we feel like we owe it to the world to do whatever we can to help other people. Like maybe there's a way we can raise some money. And so we originally started the Beyond Broken nonprofit just as a vehicle to raise money for other nonprofits and give it to them. We got our official paperwork back February like 20th, 26th or something like that. Brandy died March 3rd. And so from that point, remember I told you I was sitting outside with her and I said, I'm going to fight till my last breath.
Yeah.
I keep telling people I didn't say it till her last breath, till mine. And so the job's not over. And so
Yeah.
Expanded out what we're trying to do with that nonprofit. When she was going through it, we couldn't find doctors who were good. We found doctors who were in the insurance, but there's no way really to find doctors who are good. So that's where the doctor rating part comes with Beyond Broken that we're trying to work on, where we can really, source out who are the best doctors in these communities, who you should be going to for this thing and this thing, right? Outside of that, support groups is what we're trying to do. There's anxiety support, depression support, survivors of suicide, because that's a hard thing to find, those people. Support groups like that, and then also finding or putting in place an infrastructure where people who don't have the copay that they need or don't have Medicaid and just need to have some sort of conference with a good doctor can come and get that. So Beyond Broken, we have a small mission right now, which is just to do those couple things and do them well.
Those are huge things.
I hope not, because I'm a one man show right now. So I hear you, like we was talking about, but
One
that,
people show.
that's all we want to do. If we can help one person, one person who is going down that road toward that finality of life, and we can stop that, or they don't even have to be suicidal, just somebody who is going through it, and when they're going through it like that, they don't have the wherewithal to go seek out people who are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Putting people who are have like struggles together and having them be each other's community and backbone and all that kind of stuff. So if we can be a part of the solution, then Brandy's dream lives on. So that's what I'm working for.
Oh, B and B. I used to call them B and B. Brian and Brandy, Brandy and Brian. B and B. Get it, guys? Oh, B. I've held it together. Very proud.
Yes, I'm very impressed.
Very impressed. That's okay. As soon as I get off here, I'm about to cry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I have two more questions. So again, this is another question that we kind of talked about. Where would you say, because obviously the podcast is about grief, where would you say that you are now in the process of grief? Right, in the process of grief. Now that we are 311 days after the fact of our beautiful friend leaving.
Because in the podcast, which you should all go listen to,
You should listen to.
I'm pretty sure that I said that there was no process. I'm
Right.
pretty sure that's something I talked about. So um, when Brandy passed away, I remember having to tell myself to breathe. Okay, you can get through this minute. You can get through these 2 minutes and get through these.
Right.
Then it was this day, this week, this month. Um, and then you go through this thing where the days aren't so hard anymore and you're hard on yourself because of it. You're like, why doesn't this hurt? Why am I okay most days? And really, you should be happy about that you're actually okay. Where I'm at right now is I'm happy, genuinely happy. I most of my day, I'm happy. Um, I'm able to reflect on the past without it ripping my heart out these days.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things I still can't. But I'm still not at a place where everything's everything. Saturday, I was cleaning out the house that we used to live in together. So I'm getting ready to rent it out. And there was only one item of clothing in the whole house. It was Brandy's wedding dress. And I
Mm.
had to throw that away. And I remember um, it like came at me, hit me, like all of it hit me. I'm in this house all alone by myself, throwing away a wedding dress for a woman I thought I was going to spend my whole life with. The reason we kept the dress is one day we might have a daughter and maybe she'll wear the dress, right? And so then it gets hard. And like I've learned how to live a life that only has me in it, which was a big adjustment to go from 10 or 11 years with somebody. And like I talked about in the podcast, a relationship is, if you simmer it all down, it's a lifelong conversation. And when it abruptly stops, you don't know who to be and who to talk to. You know? And I finally gotten to the place where I'm okay with the conversation I'm having with myself. You know,
Mm.
and I'm ready to build the next part of my life. I'm open to that next chapter and what comes with that. And so while I don't know if you can neatly fit that in what the process is, I'm on the path to rebuilding who I am because for so long it was who we were. And now
Mm-hmm.
she's been gone long enough that I've started to build the bricks of me, basically.
Perfect. No, really, because I talked about that in the episode. I talked about identity and that, so it does get right on in there. You take those bricks from the past and you just rebuild who you are into the future, and that's just a part of the process. Is you
Right.
have to rebuild who you are because who you were, you're never going to be the person of who you were with any type of grief. That's just not how it works. That's the whole thing of grief is you're automatically going to be a new person because there was a loss. So when you lose a piece of yourself, you're no longer that person anymore anyway.
I would say
So
the hardest part of the aftermath is like trying to find out who you are. I remember this is in like July, or, yeah, it was in July. It was right after what would have been our 8 or 7 year anniversary.
mm,
Sitting there, and Chef Ramsay was on TV. I used to watch this Joker all the time. It was all these cooking shows.
he's so aggressive.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I hate this. I absolutely. Why was I watching this? And it dawned on me, you weren't watching it. You were on the couch while it was on,
Right.
and Brandy was watching it.
Right.
You thought us was watching it, but you were just sitting there enjoying time with your
With
wife,
her, yeah.
just mindlessly watching something. Now you can't do it because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
It's not. And then you find all these things about you that weren't you, and now you're trying to rebuild who you are. That's,
Yeah.
that's a weird thing to do at 34 because I thought I knew who I was. So
Yeah.
it's a very
Yeah.
weird thing to do.
Well, you did know who you were with Brandy, but you're a different person now, B.
I knew who us was.
Mm.
You know how close it was.
I know.
B&B.
B and B.
I knew who us was. Like,
Yeah.
so learning who just B is, that's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for God, just pushing through and I tell you all the time that you're a brave person and we all love Brandy. We love Brandy.
Well,
Hold it
I,
together, Lauren.
I appreciate
Ah,
that. I am not a brave person. I am not a
you
brave
don't think so?
person. No, no, not at all. Like you got a couple. Let's say a tornado came through
Okay.
and it and all in your neighborhood knocked your house down. Is it brave for you to rebuild your house back? It's silly for you to just lay down in the rubble and just cry over your bricks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not brave for you to rebuild your life back, and you can't control the tornado, but you can control what happens afterwards. But there's
Yeah.
nothing brave about that. You just got to get up if I keep living every day, there's no bravery in that. I'm just keeping living every day. That's not brave. I always say that people should point that admiration toward Brandy and the bravery that she had every day because she got sucked up into the tornado. It wasn't just the house got,
Yeah.
she was in the tornado and she was still going to work, being everybody's sunshine and all that kind of stuff. And there was so much darkness around her. I was
Yeah.
sitting down watching Chef Ramsay. Like there's nothing brave about.
Nothing brave about that.
There's nothing brave about that.
Well, I'm saying for you to come speak out and talk about it and to continue with Beyond Broken. Can I give you that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Can I give you that? Because we know my girl B was brave. Because the way that she was just able, again, learning so much about her and everything that she had been through from the time that she was young to the time that she passed away. My God. My God.
It mystified me. We would go out, especially in 2019. We would go out, and I would know what was going on in the house, and I would go out with all y'all, and we would all be hanging out together, and Brandy would be out there, and I'm like, she could took everything in her to flip a switch so that y'all didn't know, and as
Yeah.
soon as she got in the car, comes back down.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing you could do that because I couldn't even manage like that. I remember, I think it was Idas's birthday or whatever.
Hmm.
That Top Golf, and she had to sit in the car for like 30 minutes just to get up the energy to get out to smile one time. She was like, I got
Mm.
just to smile one time. I got to get all this energy. And so and that was a brave woman. Like I kudos to her every day.
Oh no. I love B. Somebody said, does Beyond Broken have any events coming up soon?
We got a fundraiser coming up in March. It's going to be a bowling fundraiser. It's going to be real cool. It's going to be something different. I'm actually in the process of planning that this Saturday, finalizing the plans. If you go to beyondbrokenproject.org and click events, you'll have more details on that next week.
Awesome. Awesome. So one last final to do, and then we'll get all of your information so people can reach out to you.
Okay.
To that person who is listening, who is thinking about committing suicide, who is thinking about, you know what, I don't need to be here anymore. I'm a burden. I am tired. I am exhausted. I want to be brave. I want to have the courage to be able to, leave life on my own terms. What do you say to that person who's listening right now who is thinking about that from someone who is living in that aftermath of losing a brave and courageous and beautiful person?
First, I would want to say um, don't misconstrue what I mean by bravery. Um, it's brave because it's scary to everybody else, but that is not an act that you want to do simply to be brave. Um, there's even more bravery in asking for help because that's a really hard thing to do. Um, if if you're feeling this way, talk to somebody. Um, the there's so much I want to say, and I'm trying to not, but
You
um,
can say whatever you want to say.
I'm trying to not. I'm trying to make sure the things that come out of my mouth are responsible things as well
Yeah.
when I say this. But I'm just gonna say what I said when I talked to you last because it's still the truth.
Yeah.
311 days. Um, I wish that I didn't have any one of these 311 days. Like I wish I could go back to. I would trade them all and however many other days that I'm supposed to get for 5 minutes. You know, um, you got me.
I know. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm really sure.
It's important to say I keep Brandy's phone with me to listen to her voice. I would give everything to just hear her voice. And in your life, there's somebody who would give everything for that too. But outside of how much it hurts them that you're gone and how unfair it is to them, it's unfair to you because you deserve happiness and it is able to be found in this world. You just haven't found it yet. And so, what I would say to you above all is your life is important, not just to that one person who would give everything for you, but there's a reason that you're here. And when it's time for you to naturally go, you will go. But understand that there's a reason you're here. You deserve to be here. And there's a lot of people who love you. And if you're feeling this way, it's not death that you need, it's help that you need. And that's what I would say. You gonna wait till the last moment to get me?
I know, like we did good. We did good. We waited.
Wait till the last moment.
We waited to the last minute. Woo!
There's a little wind in my face.
Right. Look, I got some in my eye. It was my hair.
I saw it.
You saw it? It was in my eye.
Yeah, I saw it fly in there.
Yeah, you saw it. It a rock. It was something. I don't know.
It was the audacity of these people who didn't listen to your podcast.
The audacity of it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Back. I know somebody said where my tissues at. Good word, brother. You saved someone's life tonight. You really did. Cause that woo! If I was listening, I'd be like, but no, honestly. So if you're listening, like you said, your life matters. I tell people that all the time. If nobody told you that, your life matters. And I know it's so like sometimes you look at calm down. Why am I getting emotional again? You look at the end of the road and you're like, for what? For what? On this past episode, I talked about my suicide attempt. I tried to commit suicide myself. Y'all wouldn't be seeing this two shots stuck. I took a whole bunch of pills and I was like, you know what I'm saying? But you just if you keep just going day by day, it's anything with grief. You take it minute by minute, hour by hour. Well, first of all, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, and there's going to be a light eventually. Like you can't see it at first and you're like, no, I've been in that dark corner. I have been in that dark corner where I have been literally in the dark corner looking crazy, looking up like, God, you know what? Like, I'm cool. Like, this is dumb. Like, why are we here? Right. And, you look up and there's a light somewhere at the end. And it may be far, but it's there. So allow yourself that chance to see that light. So, woo! B, thank you so much for being here. If people want to get in contact with you, I'm sure they would love to. If you can give them your Instagram, your Beyond Broken, and how they can stay in contact with you, that'd be awesome.
Okay. See, I should have been prepared for that part. I think that's how you got me.
That's how I got you last time. You should know by now. Well, as you can see, his Beyond Broken project is under his name. So that's one of them.
So if you go to beyondbrokenproject.org, that's the website. Beyond Broken Project. Let me just make sure about that one because
oh goodness. And I'll put all this in the caption.
Let me see. So if you go to Beyond Broken Project, yeah, that's the Instagram and the Twitter. And then me personally, you can always connect with me. It's Brian Patrick 2186.
I'll put all this in the caption so you guys can contact because yeah. But thank you, B, again for being here. Thank you all on Facebook and YouTube. Let me make sure nobody said anything else on YouTube. We're good. But thank you guys so much for being here for another installment of TTSS Thursdays live chat. If you have not listened, it is episode 2 on season 2, titled The Aftermath of Suicide, and we go a lot deeper. We give you way more jewels, but again, B,
I got one
you
more
know,
for you, for them.
what's that? What's that?
Don't just listen to my episode. It's not just episode 2, season 2, but there's a whole other season 1 with a whole bunch of episodes, and season 2 has more than 2 episodes.
It
Go
does.
listen to this woman's podcast. It's a wonderful, wonderful podcast.
Thank you,
for
B.
having me again. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Well, you guys, we will see you all on the next installment. As he said, it's available on all listening platforms and on YouTube. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them in. Share this video with someone that you think it can help. And as I always say, I'm sending you guys love and light in your life because you deserve it. I'll see you guys on the next upcoming episode.